All right. If you were here in the last 15 minutes or so or earlier, you would have noticed that Truth Cat Radio is not working. Yeah, it's working fine. Yes. You don't need to tell us it's working fine. That's what I'm telling you right now. Anyway, earlier it wasn't working fine. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay. Why am I hearing feedback? See, I knew I'm getting some kind of feedback. This is part of the issue here. This is one of the issues that we were having to deal with. Let me just see if I can figure out where that's. Well, let me just put it nicely here. We're being fucked with. Okay, so just bear with me for a second while I get my bearings so I can kind of figure out the nature of the fuckery that is going on. Is about. All right. Looks like we've got it pretty isolated. I don't know where that crosstalk would be coming from. I was messing around with the speakers. I actually had the monitor speakers hooked up directly to the server just so I could, hear stuff. But I couldn't actually pick up the channel just like everybody else. Finally, it came in. Here we are. I switched the speakers back, but okay. Let me just give you a little clue of what I think is going on. I mean, before we start getting into the actual show. Oh, yeah, I should mention that. Yeah, my name is Steven D Kelley. This is Steven D Kelley Show. Welcome. We are Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. Oh, yeah, and it's now 6:04. Yeah, compliments of someone else. We'll make up for it. It's what is it? Still July? Yeah, July 27th, 7/27/2023. If I get it wrong, you guys correct me. And that's one of the things about live radio. And I could say the wrong word. I'm not like, he said the wrong word. It's like, come on, give me a break, okay? It's ad lib. Stuff happens. Now, again, before I talk about what I want to talk about, I just say there's this little article that I posted today that got compliments of Rob Roy on the Telegram channel, and it basically says top WEF official, quote, dangerous conspiracy theorist must be eliminated, unquote. A top World Economic Forum official has called for the so-called conspiracy theorist to be banned from accessing the internet due to their dangerous belief that a global cabal of elites control the world. Wow. Nothing says dangerous cabal of elites controlling the world more than turning off the internet to the people that are actually saying that. I don't, thou doth protesteth too much. Anyway, well, guys, I think this was a little taste of what, obviously if they're doing it, threatening to do it to everybody, it's because, and I say this in all humbleness, they're doing it because of us, because of me and this mission, okay? Everything is about this mission. If you haven't figured that out yet, keep listening. But I guess the good news is we're a threat. They're scared. They think the answer now is to turn off the internet. Now, obviously, we know that the internet gives us a lot of power, but at the same time, it also has some limitations, and we should have learned by now, at least those of us that are familiar with the information, the content. There's 5,000 people now in the Telegram group, which you should have been joined already if you're listening to this. If you're not, join Telegram, find Occupy Getty /Steven D Kelley. It's easy. And join us. Now, if you are part of that Telegram group, even if there was no internet, with what you know right now, you should be able to go out and write up little leaflets and stick them on people's doors, and all together we should be able to reach 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, however many people we want, depending on the effort that we put into it, without using the internet. Strictly by using our shoe leather and our hands to stick pieces of paper under windshield wipers and in people's doors. It's not that hard. I went to the chiropractor. Guess what I did? I put an Occupy the Getty flyer on the lobby desk at the chiropractor, and he comes out after adjusting me. He goes, oh, he grabs it. He says, I thought somebody come in here and put it on my desk. I said, no, that was me. Well, obviously that gave me an opportunity to tell him what it was all about. But the point is that this is scaring the shit out of him, all right? It's scaring the shit out of him. So keep doing what you're doing and do it more and be aware. They could turn this off anytime they want. They've always said that. Even when we were doing our little astral missions under the Getty, they used to tell us, these little monsters they'd make fun of us, and they say, you and your stupid little computers, we can turn those things off anytime we want. We can shut you down. We can turn it off anytime we want. And they can. They can kill it. Well, I've had a few computers killed, and, a good backup battery is a good way to prevent that from happening. But either way, yeah, they can turn off your electricity. They can turn off your page. They can turn off your whatever they want. The Google that drives your this or that. Obviously, if I had to narrow this down to say who was screwing with us, I'd say it was Google. They have their fingers in a lot, and the rest of them, Microsoft and maybe Apple. Apparently, it looked like it was only working on the Apple phone. Anyway, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I'm just going to say this should be a clue that this is serious, because I really didn't think I was going to broadcast, and I was listening to this, and I'm thinking, wow, when have I not broadcast? Let me see, I had a heart attack, and I get me out of this hospital. I got to go home and do a show. I don't remember if I actually did it, but it's like that was my number one priority. My cat gets killed. 30 minutes later, I'm doing a show. You know what I mean? The show must go on. So for this to happen, it's kind of significant. I'm like, oh, you can just record. Well, no. I need to be doing my live show. Yeah, I'll record, but still. I pay money for this stuff. My stream time is only set at 25 minutes, which means they did cut into that earlier, interestingly enough. At least they're not doing it every minute on like they used to. They used to cut the stream every minute or so. I know they still do that for some of you people. Looks like we got our decent amount of people listening right now, so we should be back to normal. All right, guys, I'm going to get into the normal show. Start with it and say the stuff I really want to say. But before I do, I'm just going to remind you, if you want to help us out financially, you got to use the PayPal, which is Steven Kelley 714@yahoo.com, and you got to say friend or family, and I appreciate everything. And if you have donated, thank you so much. But, I have to say that because we need it, because that way the bills get paid automatically. And when I'm freaking out going, well, I know I didn't forget to pay a bill, right? Seriously, that kind of stuff I used to stress out about. But now that it's all paid automatically, this should all be working, right? Anyway, okay, it's getting real. Okay, back to the show. I did ask you guys earlier to give me some ideas and things you wanted to talk about. You did give me some good stuff. Some of it was kind of philosophical, and it was, well, let's see. If I just got to go through it here. Oh, welcome all the people that are super excited, the new members that are here. You guys want to talk about the human connectivity thing I'm doing? Let's see, some people said, let's see, there's some good stuff that I really want. I know what I'm going to get to, but I want to just go over these things, these contributions here really quick. Okay, forget about Stephen Greer. Okay, human consciousness. Okay, this is the one that was in Baja. I'm just going to address this really quick. Okay, DARPA is an agency. People say it's not real. It's an agency. Okay, well, come on. I worked on DARPA projects. You can't say it's not real. Now, if you say it's DARPA as if it was some sort of conspiracy, well, no, that's different. But yes, DARPA is an agency, just like NASA is, and the Marines or the Army or whatever. It's an agency. It's actually there. State Department. Okay, let's see. I'm going to basically talk about some human condition, especially some of the stuff that's being brought to light because of the big socioeconomic geopolitical changes involving around Russia and the BRICS and all that. And I want to end it with a little talk about some survival stuff, because a few people were wanting to talk about prepping, and I think instead of prepping, I'm going to talk about survival stuff, because people's basic survival skills are so damn bad. It's wild. Okay. All right, so let's start with the first thing. Okay, let me put down my microphone so it's not making too much noise. I got to lean forward now. All right, in St. Petersburg, beautiful city, Russia is hosting the second Russia-Africa summit meeting. Now, from a diplomatic standpoint, if you're paying attention, Russia has a lot going on with the BRICS thing. Well, let's just say it's no longer a unipolar world, and a lot of countries that have been excluded from a lot of the things that the West is so fond of keeping to itself are being very, very friendly with Russia. Well, anyway, my issue, at least the one that I want to examine here right now, is the nature of some of these friendships per se. Now I personally, my opinion is I think Russia, of course, is doing the right thing, and as a colonial power, as a former colonial power, if you leave out the Caucasus and things like that, I would say no, they don't really count. They weren't like the French and the English and the Dutch and the Belgians, etc., carving up Africa and various different continents, especially Africa. We're going to focus on Africa a little bit here first. So, and then a lot of modern conflicts, like, for instance, the apartheid era and the end of the apartheid era, a lot of the guerrilla warfare that took place in South Africa, the former South Africa, and countries like Rhodesia, which are now called Zimbabwe, these had a lot of guerrilla warfare and Cold War type stuff going on, where you had the Russians or the Soviets at the time providing hardware, munitions, etc., people, mercenaries, trainers, to countries like Angola and the various different guerrilla groups that were operating within the theater of, you take your pick, South Africa, Zimbabwe, etc. So historically, obviously, here in America, we look back on that. We think, well, that Mugabe guy and some of these other people that they were supporting were real bastards. They're still bastards. They're racist bastards. They're not good people. And you could say a lot of stuff about South Africa. You could say a lot of stuff about apartheid and Zimbabwe, but I still have images in my head of farmers being killed. Now, I know they still do that today, and again, I'm not racist and I'm not pointing fingers, but the kind of thing I want to talk about tonight is the finger pointing and the historical stuff and the wrongs that people do to each other and how we judge these things. Now, again, when I look at Russia and their association with these African countries, I mean, again, certainly everyone wants to do this. China, the USA, we're all competing for this, but when we say competing, what are we competing for? Are we competing for raping the country or helping the country or lifting the people out of poverty? What are we actually there for? The West has a pretty, well, let's just say a well-documented track record of being a colonial power, and even to this day are still trying to strip the wealth from these countries and introducing tons of corruption and what have you. So I don't know. I mean, is the Soviets any different? The Russians today, are they any different? I could say some of these dealings they have with, like in Zimbabwe, they're distasteful to me. But at the same time, I find their relationship with China a little distasteful for a couple reasons. Some of them are kind of personal, like, in the parts of China where they like to eat dogs and cats, and they like to cook the animals alive, either throwing a dog in boiling water or taking a blowtorch to a cat while it's alive, because, terrorizing the animal makes it taste better. Little barbaric things like that I kind of look down upon. And if I knew more about Africa and different countries, I'd probably look down some of their stuff too. But the point is, I know about that. But I also know about the Uyghurs. And I know about that province, and I know about the genocide, and I know about the human organ harvesting that's going on with Falun Gong, and I know about the concentration camps, and I know about what they've been doing in Wuhan, and I know about what they're doing with the slave labor that they've got there. So I have a lot of respect for Putin. I have a lot of respect for the Christian values that the new Russia seems to have addressed, the St. George's ribbon and all that. I like that. I like the fact that a lot of Russian soldiers go into battle with a little picture of Jesus on their helmet. And the very fact that they're Eastern Orthodox means that they believe in the Gnostic stuff, which I'm leaning towards, as opposed to what the Peter tribe did over there in the Vatican area that you guys love to bitch about so much. Well, so I have to say, Mr. Putin, what the heck? What the heck? You know about these slave labor. You know about the organ harvesting. You know about this nasty stuff. Obviously, you have big strategic reasons for hooking up to the China and making a block against the West. Obviously, we're such assholes. I get it. But seriously, what are you going to do if you win? What are you going to say? Hey, by the way, guys, now that we won, you need to stop doing this and that? Come on. So obviously, these are things that need to be addressed now and not later. And at the same time, we have to address stuff that happened in history. And I go over and over and over, even with personal experience here in my hometown of La Puente, where I'm dealing with illegal immigrants. Okay? Now, who's right? Who's got the right to be here? Obviously, I'm living in territory that was conquered from Mexico by the United States and stolen. Santa Anna, the idiot, was handed over something that wasn't his. But the reality was, did it really belong to Mexico? No, it belonged to the Comanches. Mexico just said it was theirs. So the Comanches really owned it, only they didn't write books and all that and say this is our border and yada yada. They just killed anybody that went there. So, when the United States took the place over, they just killed all the buffalo and the Comanches couldn't eat. No more Comanche problem. I guess Santa Anna should have figured out that he should have been trying to shoot buffalo instead of Comanches, but the United States figured that out before he did. Anyway, that's kind of like a genocide. We're really good at that genocide stuff. Maybe Santa Anna didn't want to do a genocide. That would make sense, right? Since this is kind of what all this is all about now. Wow. That would suggest that we've been genocidal from the beginning. Well, anyway, so these African countries, we'll get back to Africa. And you could use this as an example to apply to almost any country. I'm still getting feedback. Lovely. But I want to say that if you look at all the countries, you see, like, for instance, one of the issues that came up in the chat was the refugee issue. And, of course, somebody in the Netherlands was talking about that. And you don't have to tell me what's going on. I know what's going on. And they said, well, maybe we're going to go to Spain. We're going to go to Portugal. I'm like, well, you're going to have some white flight, kind of like what we do. They like all the white people left La Puente, and now it's okay to turn it into a ghetto. Yeah, okay. Anyway, well, is that right? Is there something wrong here? Who did that? Now, obviously, we know the reality. We know the agenda. We know what the elite are trying to do, the same people that are trying to shut down the internet from us to keep us from talking about it. But we know also is that if we ever do complete our mission, when we complete our mission, when we liberate those slaves and captives, we'll also be liberating a lot of wealth and technology and things the world needs. And one of the parts of the world that needs a lot is Africa. Now, that doesn't mean that Africa doesn't have plenty of resources and what have you to take care of themselves. But, yeah, for whatever reason, and we're not going to point fingers, they're culturally where they are. And who's to say that they need to be anywhere else? But the bottom line is, if we're going to liberate all that wealth, more wealth than anybody needs, it's going to be equal. Now, you think, well, does that mean that somebody living in a clay hut somewhere or wherever needs the exact amount of gold that someone's going to get, say, in Manhattan, New York? I mean, seriously. The reality is that, yes, everybody's going to be equal. Exactly. And as far as gold is concerned, we'll figure that out. We're going to work it out. But yeah, if we have to spend a lot of time over there making adjustments, yeah, we're going to have to do that. Now, as far as reparations or corrections, no, none of that is going to happen. We all are going to bring up a level of equality, but that doesn't mean anybody's going to be brought down to a level, which is what these people are trying to do so harshly to the United States and Europe. I mean, Europe is becoming a third world country. Germany, France, etc., Italy, they're becoming third world countries. Very soon, They will be out of the top 10 when it comes to wealthiest countries in the world. All three of those countries will be out of the top 10 very soon because of the war with Russia. You know whose economy is gaining right now? Russia. They've got at least 3% growth. And their stuff is stable. It's not all fake like we do. Anyway, they got plenty of growth. You know, this isn't even part of the show, but I'm just going to share something with you here real quick. But I was watching this video. This guy, he's usually reporting on the war or whatever. He actually lives in Cyprus, Greece. So usually I'm seeing him around Cyprus. But the other day he went to Armenia. But then right after that he went to Moscow. I'm like, wow. I'm seeing him walking around Moscow. I mean, not just St. Peter's Square and stuff like this, but just all over the place. Anyway, one of the first things I noticed, there's no graffiti. There's no trash. Sure, the buildings were the classical buildings. Occasionally you would see, very often you would see English language like sail, or something of this nature. Hell, I saw a Russian mall, and they had a Williams and Sonoma in this mall, which is a store that sells high-end kitchen gear. But you know what else I noticed? Aside from the streets being completely clean and there being no graffiti and nasty crap all over the place, because I kind of looked at my own streets, Los Angeles, etc., and compared what I saw. I did see, I saw a lot of, Kentucky Fried Chicken, McDonald's, yada, yada, all that all over the place. I mean, a glut of that. I realized that Russia had passed Paris as the most beautiful city in the world because Paris has been trashed by the refugees. So, wow, they must be doing something right. Got cops posted here and there. Or maybe the people that live there have pride in their country. They wouldn't do that. The guy went into a mall. He was riding in first he went into the metro. Started out in the metro. This metro was ridiculous. I mean, I've been in the metro here in L.A., and it's concrete ugly. This was extremely futuristic. But anyway, he ended up in a mall. And around here, where I live, we have the South Coast Plaza, which is one of the ritziest malls you can get, outside of Beverly Hills per se, but Rodeo Drive. But the point is this thing made that look like yesterday's news. And here's the key. Not only were there a whole bunch of stores and they were all open, but there were people shopping. Now, this was taking place in the middle of a day on like a Wednesday or something like that, when people should be at work. You know what happens when you walk in a mall around here? Or hell, I got a mall not too far from me in La Puente. They call it Puente Hills Mall. They filmed Back to the Future there in the parking lot. If you've seen the movie Back to the Future, that's the Puente Hills Mall. Anyway, if you go in there, it's like a ghost town. You go into any mall, it's like a ghost town. It's not happening. So much for those sanctions, huh? So much for those sanctions. But hey, we're going to win. We're going to beat those Russians. We're going to turn them into a big gas station, some stupid thing like that. Anyway, that's not what this show is about, but it's kind of annoying when they're throwing away our money on this crap, just like nothing, and just acting like we care. I mean, I could talk about the Hunter Biden nonsense and Joe Biden. It's getting really bad, but at the same time, I can't stand Trump. I can't believe that they're making it out like he has some ability to provide some sort of opposition to the Biden thing. And I understand that, sure, philosophically or whatever, GOP, etc., he's going to be slightly different. But at the same time, I regret that these people in the world actually believe that he's somehow going to make things better. It's so naive. It's so bad. I really, to be honest with you, I'm thinking about running myself. Not to be seriously winning in this crap, because you know how I feel about it. But I kind of think I need to do it, especially if they're turning off my damn station. Maybe I need to make even more noise and make even more claims and say even more things and go even more mainstream. That's a good way to do it, huh? So back to the Africa thing, China thing, and all that. obviously the whole Occupy the Getty business is a quest for freedom and liberation. It's not just the people, of course, but the wealth and the technology. And to regain what is ours. We're not there to destroy anything. It's ours. We paid for it. It's our bunker. Those are our trains to take us wherever we want to go. That's our stuff. We can decide what needs to happen after we take it back. We know what's not going to happen is people aren't going to be getting murdered and offered up to Satan. That's going to stop. And don't worry about the blood. We'll clean it up. We'll offer prayers for the victims and honor them properly. But you don't do more destruction. So, that being said, when this is done, when it comes time to pass out all the cookies and the cheese, etc., we will be fair, but at the same time, we will do so with an iron fist. And we have no choice, because very much like the surgeon that removes the cancer with no emotion, we will do the same when we pass out the cookies. We're not going to favor one over another, and we're not going to tolerate speculation, cheating, this kind of thing. So yeah, the future is going to have a lot of things different. You know, I also talked earlier about the fact that there's going to be a disconnect. There is a disconnect in how people are going to connect even closer in the future. I don't think you understand what I'm talking about, but this concept of everybody getting more psychic. As you guys get more psychic, you're going to crave this connection even more, especially if you don't have it at all. That's very, very natural. But at the same time, eventually what happens is when everybody reaches a certain point and becomes that kind of psychic, they're all going to connect. They're all going to know what everyone's doing, what everybody's thinking, how they're feeling. And that can be a little intrusive, perhaps, to some people, perhaps. And I suspect that it's going to take a long time before humans get used to something of this nature. But that's what's coming. I'm just going to wrap this up, and then I'm going to take a quickie break. Not yet, but and then I'm going to talk about that whole survival thing a little bit. But once again, though, it's not just spreading the gold out over the world and getting everybody out of their caves and what have you, and turning them into whatever it is that we consider ourselves to be. Again, we can only impose so much of that, but at the same time, we will be imposing certain things. And it won't be the easiest thing in the world to do, obviously. But I think that what we will be trying to do is basically trying to come up with some sort of a non-selfish society. I don't think it's going to be very easy to do, but we'll be able to enforce it. And we'll certainly have the economic and the carrot, so to speak. There'll be plenty of carrot to hopefully entice people to be, well, let's just say receptive. Okay. All right. Now, you know, this message tonight, this thing that I gave you, I don't consider this to be incredibly inflammatory. So it kind of is, to me, it seems kind of wild the way we had this ridiculous censorship or display of power that took place right before we went on the air. But it does give me kind of perspective. And I know the show that was just playing before it, the whole lions and mama bears, I know that struck a chord with a lot of you. And I hope that continues. But at the same time, I think maybe that might have had something to do with why we're experiencing what we're experiencing. All right, I'm going to go in kind of some fun stuff real quick. I'm going to consider this fun. It's going to get away from the other stuff a little bit, but only because a few people were talking about it. But somebody actually said they wanted me to talk about prepping, what were proper things and stuff to do, stuff like that, which kind of got me thinking about it. And I'm because of my gun business and all that, obviously I'm a so-called prepper from way back. I've still got my 55-gallon drums for water, and well, let's just say I've kind of got a lot of stuff that you would consider you would probably want to have if you were prepping. But anyway, the reality is I don't really think. I don't think prepping for what? Prepping to be a survival or survivalist, because this is what it was about. Some Armageddon, some event taking place where everybody's going to die and starve and whatever, but you're going to survive because you're prepared and you've got your little bunker with foodstuffs and stuff that whatever it takes. You can live out in the wild. You can stay far away from people and survive. Well, I realized a long time ago, technically, because I was a survivalist, I was in that business, and it was my job to be an expert on all this stuff, that there was no survival. You couldn't survive. I mean, come on. We used to have this saying, anything short of a Sherman tank or an atom bomb is a compromise. Well, that's true. And if you've seen the tanks and armored personnel carriers and bunkers and whatever have you in the forests that are being destroyed right now in Ukraine, just imagine that's, I don't know, Yosemite or Kentucky or Appalachia or someplace like that where your little bunker is, and a little drone flies over your head and drops a fucking mortar at the front door of your little thing, or flies in through whatever, kind of Randy Weaver, only high tech with a drone. This is what's coming. This is the way it's going to be. I mean, do you realize they take that same little drone that you fly around and they attach the front end of a Katyusha rocket? What is it? No, the rockets that they use, I'm talking about the Russians, they have these self-propelled rockets that they develop for taking out tanks. They just take that warhead now and put it on top of a drone and fly it into one of these, $113 million Leopard tanks. You know what that costs? Nothing. It doesn't cost anything. And it gives you the benefit of being able to see the path of this thing all the way up to the point of where it hits the tank. It's, if it cuts out a little early, that's because the lag, the signal lag, there's a split second between what you see and when it actually happens. So you don't actually see it hit the tank about, a fraction of a second before it hits the tank. It cuts out because it blew up. Anyway, point is that warfare is changing. You can't hide. Now, I know you can get a Mylar blanket. We're going to talk about all this stuff briefly. There's lots of things you can do. There's lots of ways I've been thinking about all kinds of laser systems and such to take out these drones and blind the eyes in the sky that are out there now in the modern battlefield, identifying every single position. My God, those Ukrainians are like sitting ducks out there. I feel sorry for them, especially those tanks. There's just like nothing to take out those tanks. And you see these guys walking around when they're blowing up. Oh, there goes a tank. Oh, they don't miss. The more expensive and higher value the target, the more you probably don't want to be standing next to it. Anyway, so much for that. But so, survival. When you're trying to survive or when you're in a conflict, three things happen. You're either going to fight, you're going to run, or you're going to hide. Now, survival, when you're trying to fight, you're not really thinking about survival. Obviously, you want to survive. Certainly, you want the other guy, the whole purpose of fighting is survival. Usually, historically, humans, we fight for our women. Cavemen, we're fighting for our women. They're stealing our women. We got to, we fight. Men go to war to defend their women at home. This is what it's really all about. That's survival of the species. But now, what really works? Fight. Flight, hiding doesn't work. They're going to get you. You're hiding in the woods. You're waiting. They're going to get you. Better to fight. That's where I come in. That's where the whole Occupy the Getty things comes in. We're fighting right now. We're not waiting for them to, come after us and find our little bunker in the woods and where we've got our little cache of bullets and we're going to fight to the last drop of blood. I mean, come on. It takes nothing for them to catch you and nothing for them to delete you. So that doesn't work. We really need to work with what we've got right now. They're taking away our internet. Working harder. Don't wait for them to get through this shit. Go out there and pass that shit out. Now, again, I told you I'm going to talk about survival stuff and not that, but you know what I'm saying? Seriously. Engage the fucking enemy. Go in their homes, their living rooms, their shelters, their bunkers. That's what Occupy the Getty is. We're going to their bunker. We're not hiding in our bunker with our tuna fish and our bottled water and our AR-15 and our gas mask, etc. No. We're going to their bunker. That's what the Getty is. It's their bunker. It's their palace. We don't fuck around. We're there having a fight, run, or hide with us. And right now, they're the ones hiding. They're scared. They know what's coming, and they know they lose. And it's not working good. So, back to survival. Now, there's a couple questions coming up. What should you have? That kind of thing. Let me see. What did I say? I said, do you have a fallout shelter, Geiger counter, water storage, solar-powered battery system, weapon, body armor, gas mask, filters, chem suit, laser, infrared, night vision, lock breaking gear, battery-powered hand tools, gas generator, 4x4 vehicle? Did I forget anything? You should have all that stuff. You should know how to pick locks. You should know basic electronics. Very important, very useful. That's why the professor was so useful on Gilligan's Island, because he could make a damn ham radio with coconuts. Hello? Be the professor. Now, at the same time, you need to be able to make fire, meat, shelter, and water. I know that sounds real primitive and all that, but that's really what it's all about. We don't need to talk about lock picks right now, but I'll tell you, a 22-powered nail driver works real good for busting anything. You're trying to drive down a road, and you've come up to a gate, and it's got locks. You need to be able to get through that gate. You better be able to get through that chain, get through those locks, no matter how well that thing is built. So that's why you want a good stockpile of resources, even after you have to turn on your generator and get out the power tools. You have that stuff, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're stranded on a desert island, that kind of thing. Now, that's kind of what I want to talk about. Mainly, I'll tell you why I'm, inspired to do that is because, in my constant quest to try to entertain myself and distract myself from the constant shit that's going on that pisses me off, like them screwing with me earlier today. I do things like I found this show. It's like, I know a lot of you have heard about it. It was on, I don't know what, one of these channels, it's Discovery Channel, I think it was, Naked and Afraid, of course, which is I'm really screwing this thing. It's a survival, what do they call it? A challenge, where they take a couple people, a male and a woman, a man and a woman, and they basically have to take their clothes off, and they drop them somewhere in the jungle, somewhere, wherever, rainforest, who knows what, someplace desolate, and they'll give them a couple items, like whatever. They have to choose a couple items: fire starter, big knife, cooking pot, net, whatever. There's all kinds of things you could choose for survival. I'm surprised none of them have chosen one of these water filters. You just suck through the straw and it filters the water. Wow, wouldn't that make life easy? You go up to any dank whatever, you can drink that stuff immediately. Wow, that would probably really help a lot. But the thing is when I've watched some of these things, I kind of fast forward through a lot of stuff because I want to look at the butts. No, I'm kidding. I'm curious to see, what I'm really curious to see is how they build their shelters, if they can start a fire, what they get to eat, and where they get their water. These are key things. And, obviously there's other issues that are connected to the integrity of the shelter and whether or not they have a fire, etc., such as security, wild animals running around, which can either be a threat as predators or can be food, So there's that making meat thing. Now, I've heard several of these people, I don't know who's telling them this, but they have a certain order that they like to go through when they're out in the wild. Now, bear in mind, these people are given a choice. They've got certain things, like obviously a fire starter is real helpful. And, you know, when I say fire starter, I'm talking either a magnesium flint type thing, you know, steel magnesium fire starter, or, you know, a wooden bow fire starter, which is, of course, considered extremely primitive. Rubbing sticks together. Yes, you can make fire rubbing sticks together if the wood is dry and there's not too much sap in the wood, etc. You can do it. You don't even need string. I mean, hardcore rubbing sticks, yeah, there's lots and lots of ways to do it depending on what you got to work with. Bamboo, whatever. So if you got to pick something, what's number one? First of all, you think, what's the first thing you got to have with you? Now, of course, you could say, well, I want a mosquito net. I want a cooking pot. I want, paracord. Very good. Actually, very useful. I want a bow and arrow. I want a cutlass. No, I want a machete. You know, what's the most important thing? Number one thing is the sharp edge. Of course, that could be a hatchet, that could be a knife, but the sharp edge is number one. So if you're out there in the wild and you don't have nothing, the first thing you need is a sharp edge, which means you're looking for a rock you can chip and make yourself a sharp edge so that you can make wood, so that you can make fire. Because it takes wood to make fire, and to make fire, you need a sharp edge. So those are the first things you need. So they go, oh, well, here's a big machete, here's your knife. Wow. Okay, that saves you a lot of time. Now you don't have to chip a rock and make a sharp edge. So you got to make a fire. Well, you're either going to go out and harvest some sticks, and you're going to make yourself a bow drill, or you're going to rub some bamboo together, whatever you're going to do. There's a couple different methods for doing this, but either way, the wood has to be dry, and you need kindling. Now, sometimes, especially if you're in a rainforest or, say, someplace where it rained recently, or, I don't know, a swamp where the humidity is really horrible, it's going to be really rough finding dry wood. Even if it's dead, it's still going to be dank and nasty. You're going to have to shave it. You're going to have to shave that wood, get rid of the wet stuff until you can get down to some dry stuff. And then you maybe can start that fire. Again, I'm just assuming you've figured out how to work your bow drill or figured out how to work your flint issue. But again, kindling, very, very important. Now, real quick, here's something I have yet to see on any of these shows, but it's something we learned in Boy Scouts. You know, I mean, that's right. Yes, we learned in Boy Scouts how to make fire with sticks. Okay? But of course, kindling was very important. You know, there's lots of stuff you can use. Hell, steel wool works really good, but a battery works really good. A battery and steel wool, you want fire, get a battery and some steel wool. You'll get fire. These stupid shows, they have cameras. Are you kidding me? Short out one of these cameras, you'll have fire. Well, anyway. Your hair. Hello, your hair. We used horse hair. When Boy Scouts were trained to make fire, one of the things they had was, you know, get a little bit of horse hair and put your sparks in there, or your little coal from your rubbing your stick or whatever on this horse hair and blow on it, and that'll start a little flame. Oh my God, I see all these women with this long hair down past their shoulders to go, I can't find anything dry. I can't find anything that'll burn. Hello. Your greasy hair is going to burn just fine. Just cut some of that off. You'll start your fire. Anyway, in the shows they say, rule number one, they say, first thing you got to do is make shelter. Now, assuming you've got a big machete and all that, I guess you don't have to make a sharp edge first, but now you're chopping trees. And then they say, let's see, what comes after shelter? They go, shelter, water, fire, food. Shelter, water, fire, food. This is what they're teaching people. Now, let me tell you the truth. Yes, shelter is important. And if you have a sharp edge and You can make a shelter. That's great, but it's not just to keep the sun off you. You're not just trying to make a shade. We'll talk about sunburns here real quick, but the first thing you need is fire. First thing you need. And here's why. Very often, even if you can find water, you can dig a little hole and scoop it up with your hands. Even if you can, half the time you need to purify this stuff, whatever, or you need to carry it. You got to do whatever. You got to store it, collect it, cook with it, boil it, whatever. You need a pot. And if they didn't give you a pot, then you look for dirt that looks red. You find some clay and you make a damn clay pot, and you got your fire and you put the damn clay pot in the fire and you cook that thing over the fire until you've got a clay pot that's been fired up that you can now carry water in and you can cook with. You can sterilize water. You can do all these wonderful things. Let me tell you what else you could do with some water. It doesn't even have to be clean. You can make mud. Now, I see this stuff like these guys, oh, I'm freezing cold, the wind's getting through my shelter. They get these, stack up a bunch of leaves together and they think they've got a shelter. Here's the thing, mud, adobe. You take mud, you mix it up with some grass. You got adobe. You got plaster. You put up a little stick shelter. You slap some mud up. Now you got a shelter that the wind isn't going to go through, and it's going to be pretty sturdy. And once it dries, you put a little fire in there. It's going to be really good. Oh hell, you got mud. You can make fucking roof tiles. You don't have to worry about. I know this all sounds crazy, but yes, fire is kind of important to get done first. Now here's the other thing I noticed with these guys. They everything's too wet. They're so busy working on their shelter that they never get around to making the fire, so they spend the night freezing. They got bugs. Well, obviously you need a fire to get rid of the bugs, but here's another good thing you need to get rid of bugs, and that's ash. You got ants all over the place. You don't want the ants crawling into your shelter. You take the ash and scatter it around your thing. You don't see that, but yeah. So again, very, very good stuff. Or then the rain. The rain. They go, oh, the rain's getting on my fire. The water's leaking through the leaves, the roof. What do we do? Well, I don't know. Maybe if you had constructed a little wooden stick fireplace thing and covered it with mud and then built a fire inside of it to cook the mud dry, maybe it would be dry and, you'd have an oven that would stay dry and not give you a problem and, make a chimney while you're at it and, on and on and on and on and on. So none of this is hard, which brings me to sunburns. I know it's those of us that are white, that don't get out in the sun. Personally, I think it's a good idea to get out in the sun, just have a nice tan all the time. But even if you don't run around naked and get your private parts sun, you can use mud on your skin. Nobody does that. Put some mud on your skin. It's also good to keep the bugs away. But that's the thing. It really bothers me that people don't know how to make fire. They don't know how to make water because they don't know how to make fire, and they haven't figured out that you can dig up some dirt from the ground and basically make a pot as long as you can cook it on some fire. Little things like that. These are kind of skills you want. So, be prepared for that. Learn those skills. We're back in the Stone Age. When there's nothing around, you got to work in a post-apocalyptic place. Learn how to make a sharp edge. Learn how to make that shelter. And here's the thing also. Instead of cowering in your shelter when the animals are roaming around because they sniff that, the leftover snake that you were eating earlier, have a trap, have a pit, have a deadfall, have spikes, have punji sticks, have spears, have snares everywhere, lots of snares, big snares, little snares. Don't wait until you're starving to say, you know what, I think I'm going to put up a snare. Put them up all over the place. Same thing with fish, me personally, I don't like killing animals. I don't even like gutting a fish. catching a fish. I don't like the barb in their mouth. You know, it bothers me now. I don't believe in having to kill to make meat, and the more calories you need, the harder it gets. But fishing? Oh my God! Come on, guys. Lots of ways to trap fish. It's pathetic to watch these people that don't know how to do that. So little skills like that. You know, if you're a scuba diver, if you've ever, you know, dove in the ocean or did any snorkeling, maybe you know how to make meat. I know when I was in Boy Scouts again, I was in this little program they had reserved for Eagle Scouts. They call it the Rugged E. And when we were on Catalina, we had a little survival camp out. What did we have with us? You know what we had? Well, let's see. We had swimming masks, of course. We all brought our swimming masks with us. We were wearing shorts, of course. Let's see. We had canoes. We were cruising around the island. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, I remember. We had, I think we brought water. I think we brought our own water. Well, you know, ocean, it's not that easy to find fresh water. But we brought some butter. We brought a stick of butter. Might have even had a cookie sheet or something like that. I think we had a little pan, cookie pan, like a piece of metal. But what we did was dove down there and got abalone, you know, Pacific Ocean abalone, shellfish, you know, sea urchins, anything down there. A sea slug, I wouldn't want to eat a moray eel or anything like that, but if I had to, if I had a wooden stick with points and I was capable of sticking it into moray eel and killing it, yeah, I would eat that thing, of course. If I was starving, sure. If I had a knife capable of skinning it, sure. But the point I'm making, if you're by the ocean, there's a good chance you're going to find stuff you can eat that doesn't have a furry face. You can have some fish faces. I can handle that. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to share with you. I guess it's the mud thing. I mean, I can't believe I'm so, oh my God, you're making a shelter. I'm getting wet. It's got bugs climbing in. I don't know. If you covered it with mud and debris, maybe the bugs wouldn't get in there. And again, you know, the ground, the ants, well, scrape the ground back, get all that leafy crap gone, and put some ash down, and then build your little leafy bed. So, yeah, that'll get rid of the ants. All right, anyway, gosh, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one more thing. Oh, look at that. We went overtime. Yeah, I guess I should just end it since we went overtime. Well, you know, we did get screwed up there, right? Let me just cue up my music and thank all you guys for putting up with this nonsense. I hope you enjoyed it. Me personally, I did not enjoy the stress from thinking they had shut me down, but oh, how convenient. Of course, there's Rob Roy. He says, I'm in. I can hear this. I can hear that. And I'm thinking, I'm like, what? Finally, it comes up on one of my computers like, hey, look at that. It's up. So we made it, huh? But that was them screwing with us, okay? Even Jose's sitting here. He says, yep, that's an attack. That was an attack, huh? Fucking attack, damn right. You know what? But it's not like we haven't been through this before. Only it's not like they're not warning us. Obviously, I am to them, what they say, conspiracy theorists spreading dangerous conspiracies about an elite cabal. Hey, I don't say elite cabal. I say occupy the Getty, and then whatever you find down there, you'll know what's up when you see what's down there. I don't even tell you what's down there. I mean, people go, what's down there? What's down there? You'll find out. That's the whole purpose of this mission. So I don't have to point fingers at people. Okay? Like that whole immigrant thing and all that nonsense. Yes, reality is sometimes we got to be cruel, and sometimes we got to do stuff that seems cruel to create a better world for everybody else. But at the same time, we can't be emotional, we can't have fear, and we have to be as equal as possible, right? And fair. That's really all I can say. So things are changing, people, and obviously the enemy is concerned, and obviously we are a threat. And Obviously, very proud of you for helping us all become such a formidable threat to these pricks. But at the same time, I want you to do more. And if that means saying these things like Rob Roy says when he makes these memes, like, oh, Stephen Kelley is this and that, yada, yada. You know what? That's like Trump, okay? I got to do the same damn thing. If I got to run for president, say, oh, my God, this guy's like, sliced bread, whatever, blah, 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 second coming. I don't care. Whatever it takes for us to win this battle needs to happen. Oh, yes. Everybody pray for Kathleen over there in Kentucky. Hey, Kathleen, are you out there? Probably, huh? Latonia? Yeah, that's got to be you. Who has the issue I talked about in Telegram today. If you join my Telegram group, you'll know. But anyway, we believe in healing and the power of prayer. So, if you join our group, you can help us. We just passed 555, where I think we're, I don't know, what are we at? Let me see right now. As we are right now, let me just refresh so I can get the freshest data. Let's see. Members, 5,059 members. All right. Right on. Good for us. Good for everybody. I'm going to have another interview here on Sunday with Emily over there on What the Frick. All right. So you guys look forward to that. Not this Sunday, but the next one, the 6th. So I look forward to that. All right. I'm out of here. Oh, yeah, you guys. Please, PayPal, Steven Kelley, 714yahoo.com for friends or family only. You got to find that button. Okay, I appreciate every penny that you donate. And if you want to talk to me, law17gun@aol.com, please. And that's for healing. That's for a free copy of the book. That's for information about being a Jedi. That's for interviews. That's for anything you want to tell me your story about your, bad things happen to you that you want to share with me. That's how you do it. Okay? All right. Thank you for being with us tonight, and I'll look forward to seeing you in my group, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week, God willing, assuming that they still let me have internet. Ooh. Anyway, here we are, right? Okay, my name is Steven D. Kelley. This is the Steven D. Kelley Show. We are Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com, the one and only. It's now 7:06 p.m., July 27th, 2023. And I'm going to say good night. God bless. Adios and goodbye.